Okay, hello. A bit late. We're starting a bit late today. Sorry. I was trying to set up the first meeting in a way that we could record it so that we can offer it later for people to watch. I'm alone for the moment, but maybe other people will come. I'm not sure. No worries. First day. So welcome to Feminist Fridays. We're making up last Friday's session. This will be an every other Friday event activity, and yeah, anyone's free to join in the call and just watch the video or comment or also appear on video or but we will be recording it, so I have to say that. So anyway, yes, welcome. We have a lot to talk about today, so we'll just get right into it. So first, what are Feminist Fridays? It's going to be just a space for us to talk about anything that we find interesting or worth exploring related to feminism. As a guide to begin, I have this journal from one of my favorite authors. It's called We Should All Be Feminists. And this is like a guided journal of this famous book that she wrote, We Should All Be Feminists. Her name is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and highly recommend that you read We Should All Be Feminists if you haven't. The journal takes some of those ideas and presents them to us for our reflection. So anyway, so I started looking through this to prepare for today, and the first page. So if you're following from home, I'd recommend having like a journal or just some paper and a pen so that you can write down your thoughts and join us on this journey. Perhaps I'll start reading an introductory letter from Chimamanda to start. Okay. Dear reader, feminism for me has been about unlearning and learning, about daring, to want, to take, to be, about choosing to live with the belief that I fully matter. It is a process, a lifelong journey. Oh, we have someone that wants to come into the call. And I'll keep reading here. Sorry. Sometimes I need to remind myself that I matter, because it is easy to forget in a world mired in misogyny, and so I look to the people I love, to books and ideas, to wisdom wherever I can find it. I hope this journal becomes a small reminder to you that you matter fully. I hope it becomes a companion as you make feminist choices every day, as you love in a way that never diminishes you, as you refuse to apologize for occupying space in the world. I hope it reminds you of the courage that we can all find inside ourselves. Courage has never been about not being afraid. I'm often afraid, but I think of courage as choosing to act while acknowledging fear. And I think of fear as human and normal, never as a barrier. There are so many things I was taught to believe about myself and the world that I no longer believe. I have found joy and meaning in this unlearning. I hope this journal helps you, even in the smallest way, on your own journey of unlearning. It's never finished, by the way. I'm still working on learning to stop feeling guilty for wanting what I want. I wish you courage daily. Every single day, you can dare to make the choice that is best for you. With love, Chimamanda. Hello, welcome. I'm just going to ask you to silence your microphone unless you want to speak. If you wouldn't mind just silencing your microphone so that we don't get like feedback.
How do I do that?
Should be an option you have.
I see it now.
And just turn it on whenever you want to speak, or you can write in the chat. Okay, welcome. We have my mother here. What a gift. Okay, so we're just looking at this guided journal that we're going to use in Feminist Fridays to get us started. Here's another quote from Chimamanda. It says, I think it is morally urgent to have honest conversations about trying to create a fairer world for women and men. And so, yeah, we're just going to start with that today. What is the meaning of feminism? According to We Should All Be Feminists by Kimamanda, a feminist is a person who believes in the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. And so that's what I've asked some of my friends and some family members, which we're going to talk about some of their answers today. How would you define feminism? What is feminism? And I did a bit of research on my own as well. And so we'll start with some of these official explanations, and then we'll talk more about people's personal experiences. According to the International Women's Development Agency, which is like an Australian nonprofit, I would say, they define feminism as the protection of the rights of diverse women and girls. They talk about the importance of gender equality, that all genders have equal rights and equal opportunities. They say that feminism is about respecting diverse women's experiences, identities, knowledge, and strengths, and striving to empower all women to realize their full rights. Just going to adjust this. There, okay, I think we're recording, so maybe let's have both. Okay. It's also about leveling the playing field between genders, ensuring that diverse women and girls have the same opportunities in life available to boys and men. Then they talk about this idea that I hadn't really considered, which is called intersectional feminism, which is about acknowledging the interplay between gender and other forms of discrimination. For example, ethnicity, race, physical or mental ability, age, religion, socioeconomic status, class, and gender or sexual identity. It's true that I was aware of some criticisms of feminism as being like a very white middle class movement that kind of excluded people of color or even lesbians, and it's problematic because obviously there were important strides made in the past. This problematic era is known as second wave feminism, which would be like starting maybe after the right to vote, starting after that. The first wave is like property rights, voting. Second wave is about more equality and against discrimination. And then the third wave, which is like from the 90s, is a backlash to the second wave, claiming that it's like privileging white straight women. And so, yeah, it leaves you kind of with you're not sure how to feel about this. One of my good friends said exactly that to me. She said, I wrote down in my notes here of what she said, well, first she said, you don't want to hear what I have to say about feminism. It's not going to be nice, she said. And then she went on to say that for her, feminism was white women bitching about how hard their lives are. And for her, that's all it is. So this would be very encompassing of this third wave feminism, which is a reaction to the second wave feminism. That I think we have to acknowledge that to be able to move forward together. I think that it was an important part of the growth of the movement, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it hasn't served us and that it cannot serve us in the future. I mean, imagine not having the right to vote or to own property. Imagine being treated like property, or being told that you have to dress a certain way, or that you can't marry who you love. Or so I'd say some of my other friends were a bit more optimistic, but critical of capitalism in the role of this revolution. A friend of mine from Argentina, I'm going to read this in Spanish and then I'll translate it, said, feminism for her is un movimiento social, histórico y revolucionario, so a socially historic and revolutionary movement que aspira a conseguir una igualdad real entre géneros, that aspires to achieve equality between the genders, y que en algunas facciones amplia sus demandas a otras esferas que superan al género. That in some factions, it actually amplifies its scope to other people that are affected by oppression, like la lucha por la igualdad de clases o razas, the fight for equality between classes or race, y o en defensa de las minorías, so, or perhaps in defense of minorities. She did note that feminism is an important historical movement, but in the past century, or maybe in the past 50 years, it's been used by neo-capitalism as a marketing tool. So now it's like they can sell us stuff because they know that we want to be feminist and support, I don't know, that we want to buy feminist stuff, I guess. It's just another thing to sell, which I thought it's also true. I mean, if you pay attention to ads directed towards women nowadays, they're like, I don't know, you should shop at our store because we're feminists too, or you should buy this because you're feminist. And so like using it against us. Let's talk about, so we don't have anyone else in the call, but I'll read you what some other people had to say about what feminism was to them. Lots of people said it was about equality, acceptance. I thought it was interesting that one person referred to it as though it was something from the past. Like, let me just go back here and read you this quote. No. But anyway, it was someone who spoke of it as though it were a fight that we've already fought and won, but other people would say it's something that we're still actively fighting for. And let's see, person said that for her, it was the freedom to live her life the way she chose, without having to buy into any constructs of white male society. Equality. She did say that she felt she had been a social outcast in her life because she identified as a feminist. So it wasn't always a popular position to have. Now it's popular, but I'd say it was a struggle, especially like in the 70s and 80s, maybe, to identify as a feminist. She then goes on to say that although being a social outcast, she still doesn't have any regrets, because she's lived her life the way that she wanted to and values her freedom. Let's see, what else did I want to comment about? So yeah, I'll be honest, when I started with this idea, I was kind of naive and just thought, wow, what's feminism? It's about fighting for women. Like, I didn't really think about the complicated definition of feminism, that women aren't only exposed to sexism, that there's also other levels of oppression that could be coming into play, like racism, ableism, ageism, homophobia, transphobia, religious persecution, and they're all would be linked. It's not like you would be discriminated against and think, well, that I guess is because I'm gay, or that person's treating me like that because I'm a woman, but not because I'm like, they're all going to be intertwined, aren't they? I think that it's important to, yes, everybody can be a feminist. Not only women are feminists, men can be feminists too. But I think it's important to give women their space and to listen to them. And there's this popular term that I suppose has something to do with feminism that's called mansplaining. It was coined by one of my favorite authors, Rebecca Solnit, and she came up with this idea because that was her experience. Was even though she was like, she's a super educated woman, well read on like so many different topics, but she would, for example, meet a guy at a party and be talked to, like, even though she had like a PhD in some subject, the guy was like, let me explain to you. She's like, and so it's kind of this arrogant attitude that like, oh, you must not know, let me I'll explain it to you, like this very condescending tone that I'm sure many of us have experienced in our lives. But yeah, it's not, it's definitely a movement that's open to the support from men. I think that it's important to, unfortunately, it's important to say it's not about hating men, which sometimes is portrayed as that. It's not about women being better than men, or it's just acknowledging the difference in our experiences and in the opportunities that we're given. And let's see, what else could we talk about here? I thought it was important to, in talking about these waves of feminism, okay, so the first wave we said was property rights and the right to vote, which, by the way, was in the United States was only about 100 years ago, so it's not so far in our past. And I found this quote from Abigail Adams, who would have been the first lady in the United States. And she said, in talking about this movement in favor of the right to vote, she said that if particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, she capitalizes ladies here, the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion, and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice. Which, although is from well into our past, I thought was relevant because of this battle that's happening in the United States now about a woman's right to choose her medical future and have control over her body, which it's been almost a year now since a woman's right to choose has been challenged in the United States, and has Roe versus Wade was struck down. And it's kind of, maybe we could look to Abigail Adams for advice here, because yeah, if women are continuing to be treated this way, I hope that we will seek advice from Abigail Adams and not just allow our rights to be taken away from us. And then second wave feminism, we have, I thought it was important to acknowledge, even though maybe second wave feminism was a white female movement, I still think it's important to remember that it was an important battle that I think is still happening today, of women not being relegated to unfulfilling roles like homemaking or childcare. They're important roles, they're important jobs that need to be done in any society, but it's like we still live in a world where it's assumed that women will do them. I still have friends who it's like assumed that the mother will take care of the child, and whenever the father changes a diaper, does the smallest thing, everyone's like swooning over what a great father he is. But it's like we still live in these antiquated times where it's expected that the woman is just naturally the cleaner and the cooker and the child rearer. And then finally, this third wave criticism of second wave. It's true that and I think it's important for us to acknowledge that wave failed to address the concerns of women of color, lesbians, immigrants, religious minorities. And then in the 2010s, we saw a response to all of these cases of sexual assault and rape culture, and realized that there was still work to be done in combating misogyny. And finally, we had this massive women's march. It was a march on Washington, D.C., but this was in 2017, January 21st, the day that Donald Trump was inaugurated in the United States. But it was like a global movement because everyone was kind of horrified by this perceived threat on reproductive, civil, and human rights, which turned out to be not an empty threat, right? Because now there are many places in the United States that women don't have access to abortion or to proper medical care, and they're living in this fear that if they're caught, like maybe they go to another state where they can get an abortion, they come back, they're like worried that they're gonna get a prison sentence or something, and it's like, what century are we living in? So anyway, yeah, I guess that's a pretty good starting point for a definition of feminism. I think I had one other friend who gave me her thoughts in Spanish that she says we're looking for equality in feminism, and acknowledging centuries of oppression against women. But she says that we really have to look at all of these types of oppression that we've been talking about in this past half hour. That could be people that are being discriminated against because of their race, or some or like ableism, as we say. Perhaps they work in dangerous jobs and they're discriminated against because of that, or for their gender or sexual orientation. But yeah, in order to change that, we have to kind of break down the patriarchal system, according to her, the capitalist system, and try to build something better that's not based on competition and domination, but instead in taking care of each other and mutual support of each other, and this creation of community, which perhaps is the fourth wave of feminism. Who knows? I guess we're in it. We'll finish today with this thought, and then we'll open up to if anybody wants to make any comments. So this is from Kimamanda's book Americana, and she writes, "If you don't understand, ask questions. If you're uncomfortable about asking questions, say you are uncomfortable about asking questions, and then ask anyway." So then she prompts us here, and we'll leave this for thoughts for next week, because we'll have our next Feminist Friday already next week, since this one is off schedule. What questions do you have about feminism? As you work through these meetups, seek answers to your questions by looking up unfamiliar terms. You can ask here in the chat, and we can look them up together. Read books and articles, watch documentaries, and have conversations about these issues with your friends, family, and teachers. Which I learned a lot from just the simple question, what is feminism, that I asked maybe a dozen women, and I asked some men as well. I didn't get as many answers from men, but anyway, think we have a lot to learn from each other here. Did you want to say anything? There, you can unmute your microphone. Do you have any questions about feminism or?
Wow, I think you did a terrific job here. Are we going to be able to watch this again? Will it still be on your?
Yeah, we're doing this, so I'll post it. I don't know if I can post it to YouTube. I will, or on the website.
Yeah, I'd like to listen to you again. You really covered a lot of interesting years of change.
Great.
Great, great, Amanda.
I'm glad. Thank you for your contribution and for being present.
I love your shirt too.
It's actually quite cold here, but I purposefully took my jumper off now before turning on the camera because this shirt is from how old is it?
Wow, 1977 maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe 78, 79.
Huh.
It's old. From yeah.
Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. And this is from NOW, the National Organization of Women, that was started by was co-started by Betty Friedan, who was one of these women who pointed out that women were still being like trapped as housewives and treated like I mean, we've all seen, well, anyway, no need to talk about TV shows and movies yet, but
yeah.
But yeah.
Right. And so that shirt, the history is from Cal Poly, and she came to our campus.
And she spoke there. Huh.
Mm-hmm. I hate it when I cry. And Gloria Steinem too.
Also, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I miss you.
Oh, I miss you too. Well, I guess there isn't anything more to discuss today. We'll leave it for next week with this question of if we have any questions about feminism. I encourage you to talk to your friends and family about this question, and I look forward to next week's meetup where we'll talk more about feminism and yeah. Thanks very much.
And we'll spread the word and get more women involved in this Friday. Is it every other Friday then?
Every other Friday, yeah. So the next one is next Friday though. The 20th.
Right. For the makeup, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll see you next Friday, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
All right. Love you. Bye-bye.